UFC Fight Night Vegas 77, Holm versus Bueno Silva just took place, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, and my overall event recap as well. Let's start straight away with the early prelim opener of Ailin Perez versus Ashlee Evans-Smith. What a performance from Ailin Perez. I've never seen a performance like that before from a women's MMA fighter, but let's just say, if Ashlee Evans-Smith was throwing punches, Ailin Perez was throwing it back. And honestly, maybe Ashlee Evans-Smith's punches were connecting on the side of the face of Ailin Perez because those cheeks were shaking. And you know what I'm talking about here. What a performance from Ailin Perez. Made the entire card enjoyable for the rest of it. It lifted everyone's spirits for the rest of the card. She just ice-spiced it up after the fight, where she actually did look good in the fight, let's be real. She dominated the fight. Ashlee Evans-Smith has no idea what she's doing. How could she? She's only been doing MMA for 2 decades. So she has no idea how to throw a punch, no idea how to throw a kick, no idea how to defend a takedown, no idea how to get back up. So Ailin Perez dominated her on the ground. But man, she really won me over with her post-fight speech. And I didn't understand a single word of it. That's all I'm going to say. We move on up the card to another fight, which was Alexander Munoz versus Carl Deaton. Alexander Munoz won this fight, in my opinion. I don't know if I agree with 30-26. I mean, if they're not going to give a single 10-8 round to JDM in round 3, where he nearly killed Bassil Hafez, how are they going to give a 10-8 round here to Alex Munoz? But that's just MMA judging at its finest. He did have a great third round, though. He did drop the guy in the third round, so that was impressive. And it wasn't a 10-8 in my opinion. Close to, but I don't know if it was that damaging to warrant a 10-8 round. But Carl Deaton could have won the first, but he did get cut open with an elbow and sort of sat down for a second, but it was more of an off-balance thing. Round 2, he actually did get sat down with a punch for a second, popped back up though, and it was those moments that won Munoz the fight. There wasn't much else in this fight, I'll be real, but there was one moment every round where Munoz landed a decent shot, elbowed him in the first, dropped him with a straight left in the second, I believe it was, then a counter hook in the third, dropped him as well. So yeah, Munoz wins the fight, close decision. That's what I thought would happen. We move on up the card. Azat Maksum versus Tyson Nam. If these stats are correct, there's no way of giving that to Maksum. I actually thought he won, but I didn't see these stats. 31-15 in round 2. However, he did wobble Tyson Nam in round 2. So I do understand. Maybe I'm just surprised. I was worried about that decision. Like, what way they're going to go with this? You know, he clearly got outworked in round 2, but he did wobble Tyson Nam at one moment. And Tyson Nam was chopping up his legs as well in round 1. But again, in one moment at round 1, he had another moment where he landed a decent shot that looked like it affected Tyson Nam. So, and also the visible damage. He didn't have a mark on him the entire fight. Nam's brow ridges were swollen up. His orbitals were swollen up as well. He had a cut going through his face as well. So they're obviously going to look at that if a round is close. But it was a very close fight. And round 3 is obviously a dominant round for Tyson Nam. All I'm going to say is, Azat Maksum, hype is somewhat derailed there. That was supposed to be a 16-0 prospect coming into the UFC. The next Shavkat Rakhmonov coming up. He did not look good, and he had no adjustments to make. He was just like hoping to rock Nam, and that's how he would win the fight. But other than that, he was just getting out-techniqued on the feet. So could have gone Tyson Nam's way, in all honesty, but they were very specific about scoring it based on damage, as they were in the JDM versus Hafez fight. I don't want to hear about no robbery. We move on. Up the card, Evan Elder versus Genaro Valdez. By the way, I picked all these fights right so far. I got Evan Elder as well to win. Actually a great fight between the two of them. Wasn't crazy exciting, but it had its moments. Both guys knocked each other down in round 2. I guess that round on 2 of the judges' scorecards went towards Genaro Valdez, but he hurt. How did Elder get 1 knockdown? I'm sure he knocked him down in the third as well. Maybe I'm off. Maybe he just rocked him in the third, maybe. But maybe they're just seeing it off balance instead. But Evan Elder won the fight. In the first round, he looked the more composed of the two, landed the better shots out of the two of them, even seemed to like crack Valdez with a decent shot that got his attention, and also landed a bunch of good leg kicks and body kicks as well. Round 2, I actually gave it to Elder. He got dropped badly, but he popped right back up. He also dropped Valdez with a jab in that round. Valdez got back up. But outside of the 2 knockdowns, I get Valdez's was more impressive of a knockdown. But outside of that, Elder was just piecing him up on the feet in that round. Round 3, Elder actually checked a kick of Valdez, and you could see that it affected him. And then Elder had a big swollen up calf, actually, at one moment in round 3 as well, when Valdez did actually land a calf kick. But it was too dominant of a round for Elder. He poured it on late, had some good moments. Seemed like he wobbled Valdez, landed a flying knee that Valdez just ate outright. I have no idea how he took that flying knee, but clear win for Evan Elder. And the judge gave him a 10-8 round. Adelaide Bird gave him a 10-8 round and had him winning that fight 30-26. Adelaide Bird scored that fight 30-26 to Evan Elder. Not a single judge gave JDM a 3rd round 10-8. What can you do about this, man? They're absolutely crazy. We move on to another fight up the card. Meliquizael Costa versus Austin Lingo. Austin Lingo lost. He has nothing. He has nothing for Meliquizael to worry about. I even forgot this fight happened, but it was one of the more impressive performances on the card. But I completely forgot about the fight happening, so that should tell you this was a one-sided affair. And Meliquizael Costa literally just kicked him over and over again in that fight. Over and over again. You know what I mean? But interesting, just kicked him over and over again. Front kicks to the body the entire time. Hurt Lingo to the body a few times as well. Landed a bunch of leg kicks. Was going too many times for the wheel kick maybe, but landed a good spinning back kick to the body, or 10. You know what I mean? Or 10. Literally was going for him so much. And he was just piecing up Lingo. Head kicks as well, getting through the guard. And Lingo showed maybe one of the most toughest frames in general. I was going to say chin, but it was his body as well. He visibly got hurt to the body like 4 or 5 times and still gritted down and never got knocked down in that fight. So Austin Lingo, maybe the toughest man in the world, shows that Nate Landwehr's got some finishing potential on his hands. But Costa looked absolutely amazing and dominated the fight, and also got a 10-8 round that JDM did not get. Weird. We move on up the card to another fight, which was Viktoriya Dudakova. By the way, I'm still 100% correct so far. I picked Dudakova to win. She won-ish, I guess you could say. They were both doing tit-for-tat stuff on the feet. Dudakova landed a shot to the body, I think, a kick or something, and Istela Nunes landed a punch to the face and a body shot of her own. And then Dudakova shot in for a takedown, missed out on it, went really far out with a single leg, but managed to sort of like drag that single leg and from way out, dive for the single leg, like a low single from way out, like Khabib McGregor fight style in that first round when he dove for that leg. And Nunes lost her balance, and Dudakova rolled round with her leg and sort of created like an angle of spin for Nunes' fall. And she fell right on her arm at a weird angle and snapped it out of place, Jamal Hill, Paul Craig style. So her arm's completely dislocated. It's probably better that it was dislocated rather than snapping. So tough for her. She's going to have it put back in. I think people are kind of jumping the gun saying career ender. Although she's not doing too hot right now in her own career. She's lost 4 fights in the UFC. So that is a career ender, funnily enough. Viktoriya Dudakova won. Pretty hot. We move on to another fight up the card, which was Melsik Baghdasaryan versus Tucker Lutz. Melsik wins the fight 29-28 across the board. Correct scoring of the fight. Round 1, Tucker Lutz had the back for a long time in round 1, and Melsik Baghdasaryan didn't really land any good shots. He landed some decent shots at range, but they were both going tit for tat, both throwing body kicks at each other's arms and stuff like that. And then Tucker Lutz got a takedown at the end, got the back. Melsik stayed patient, but round 1's got to go to Tucker Lutz. You had to go with something other than the striking to score that round, and it was the control of Tucker Lutz. So, round 2, Melsik does more damage. Lands knees to the body, good shots at range, even looks like he visibly wobbles. Tucker Lutz at one moment in round 2 as well, but not as bad as he did in round 3. But he cracks Tucker Lutz with some good shots as he's coming in, and there's clearly a stand-up difference between the two of them. Melsik gets taken down, I believe, in round 2, but this time not nearly as much control time, not nearly any damage either. In fact, he was the one landing little short elbows and stuff in the pocket. But eye poke from him, groin shot with a punch at the end of round 2. That's what it was. Or in round 2. That's what it was. He'd already eye poked the guy. Or no. Maybe eye poked the guy later on in the 3rd round. That's what it was. Round 2. He goes to a punch to the body. It bounces off this guy's elbow and lands right on the groin. So obviously lands on the groin. He then head kicks this guy while he's protesting. Flush, head kicks, foot lands right on the face. Crazy from Melsik. He also grabbed the cage in round 3 quite a bit to stuff some takedowns. That needs to be mentioned as well. We're going to talk about Nazim Sadykhov as well in that regard. But round 3 dominated, stuffed the takedowns that he needed to. Lutz had pretty much no control time over him, and he just dominated round 3 on the feet, beating up Lutz with good shots. So we move on to another fight up the card. Still 100% of the way. This is my first pick that I got wrong. Nazim Sadykhov versus Terrance McKinney. 1, McKinney's done. I think he's done. Unless they give him like Trevor Peak, he might be able to score a quick KO. But I think he's honestly done. I don't know if he'll be the same. A lot of his game, especially on the feet, was entirely based on athleticism, knockout power. But the only reason it was successful was because he had confidence. He had the confidence of a guy who had momentum, who was on a roll, lost to Dober, sure, but looked amazing. And everyone was talking about how he's going to be a future champ and all this. So he had confidence going into the Frivola fight where he scored a nasty KO. And like there was a big build-up of hype behind him. Since he got flatlined again by Bonfirm, you could see the confidence is gone. Simply the confidence in Terrance McKinney is absolutely gone. Hesitant on the feet. Did land some okay shots on the feet. I think he went for a flying knee, but it like landed to the chest of Nazim Sadykhov as he came in. But then after getting the back for the whole of the first round and dominating the first round, he was so hell-bent on getting that takedown. Holding against the cage, going for the takedown over and over again. Eventually gets it and gets the back and controls Nazim until the end of round 1 where he reverses it and ends up on top. Doesn't really get too close to a submission. And then round 2, immediately he's like forcing the clinch and like, please just let me hold on to you. And, you know, immediately gassing, looking for his trips. They aren't working. And then Nazim Sadykhov ends up on top. Now, here's the problem that I have with this. Great job by Nazim Sadykhov to get a rear naked choke, but this needs to be mentioned. We just spoke about cage grabbing with Melsik. The referee literally stood there, slapping at his hand for about 30 seconds in round 2. McKinney is in on like a single leg, but he's got, you know, Nazim is above him and keeping his weight above him. But if Nazim were to fall over or off balance to his back or his front, McKinney's getting on top of that takedown position. He's going to have control of the hips. To keep himself stabilized and above McKinney, he grabs the cage for like 30 seconds straight. I'm not even over-exaggerating here. He's grabbing the cage to stop losing balance on top of Terrance McKinney, and he's holding it for 30 seconds while the ref slaps at his hands for like 30 seconds. Straight up, and he kept holding it the whole time, seeing that the ref knows he's cheating, and the ref did nothing. If that ever happens, UFC referees, if you're listening to this or watching this, you probably aren't. But if a fighter ever refuses to stop grabbing a cage when you slap their hand away, point taken straight away. We got to stop this cheating. Because right now in the UFC, cheaters win. Simple as that. When it comes to USADA, when it comes to cheating in a fight as well, with eye pokes, groin shots, cage grabs, they straight up win, and it's non-stop. So either everyone start cheating, I think. We move on. Up the card, Norma Jamont versus Chelsea Chandler. Oh my God. First of all, though, great win by Nazim Sadykhov. He got the rear naked choke, and I think McKinney versus Peak might be next. I don't know what's next for him other than that. If he loses again, he's cut from the UFC, so McKinney's pretty washed. He needs to get off Twitter and get in the gym. 1 round of cardio. What do you expect? Let's be real. We move on. Norma Jamont versus Chelsea Chandler. Ailin Perez wasn't the only cake on the card. Norma Jamont was present as well. I'm not even going to tell you how this fight went. I will. I'll sum it up real quick. Norma Jamont won. She was better on the feet, and she kept ending up on top because Chelsea Chandler had no idea what balance was, and every time she went for a trip, she fell on her back. So, Norma Jamont won. Pretty dull. One top position, and then just sort of dominated on the feet while they were there. Round 1, though. She cracks Chelsea Chandler with a clean right hand on the chin. And Chelsea Chandler, I'm not exaggerating with you here, she starts sprinting in the opposite direction from her opponent. Now, we have seen Chris Barnett running away, Gustafsson at times running away, but they're looking over their shoulder as they're running, and they're going at an angle to try and get the center of the cage. I made a joke in the middle of the stream, and I'm going to repeat it now. She was straight up looking for platform 9 3/4 from Harry Potter. She sprinted head first into the cage, full force, with absolute confidence that somehow she was going to phase through that cage. No idea where she was going. She literally looked away and sprinted full force head first away from Norma Jamont. And in true women's MMA fashion, Jamont forces the clinch against the cage and fucks up her first round finish. Classic. But Norma Jamont wins. Cake ahoy. We move on. Up the card, Yun Yong Park versus Albert Duraev. I should have just picked favorites, but the main event was an underdog, I guess, right? Another underdog I picked of Duraev. I thought, he took down Chidina Jaquani, who's got pretty good takedown defense, in all honesty, right? But he took down Chidina Jaquani, dominated him for round 1 with that. I thought he would at least shoot a takedown in round 1 against Yun Yong Park, but he never did. Didn't shoot one takedown. Stayed on the feet the whole time. He did land some really good shots in round 1. So I don't know who I gave the first round to. Maybe Yun Yong Park. Because he was busting up the nose of Duraev. I'm not even entirely sure who I gave that round to. But, Yun Yong Park had a guillotine in round 1. That's how he won round 1. Clear round 1 for Yun Yong Park in that case. He was already edging it anyway, but then he had the guillotine at the end, which was in, but you don't tap to guillotines. No one does in high-level MMA unless they're a coward. Didn't tap to it. Duraev survived until the end of the round, and I was thinking, well, there you go. Yun Yong Park had his moment, squeezed for dear life for about, no joke, 30 seconds of squeezing. He's just gassed himself out. Duraev's about to win. But never mind, Duraev shoots a takedown, gets it for a bit, doesn't progress position in any way whatsoever. Yun Yong Park gets back up, and then Yun Yong Park beats him up badly, and Duraev has nothing left. But Duraev was landing overhands. Yun Yong Park's chin is made of granite. The Iron Turtle, iron chin as well. He took those shots so well on the chin and just kept pushing. And Duraev, you could see him. He was like, God, what do I do? Not shoot a takedown. I'm only Chechnyan and I have a wrestling base. Why would I shoot a takedown? I'm retarded. That's what he was saying in the cage out loud. You couldn't hear it because he was speaking in Chechnyan, but that's what he was saying. He was screaming at how Down syndrome he was. And Yun Yong Park broke him. Fair play to Yun Yong Park. Took the power shots, pushed the pace, and broke him. Hurt him badly. Cracked him with a big overhand. Hurt him to the body at one point as well. And just cracked him with an overhand. Dropped him badly. I thought he was out cold. I think Yun Yong Park did as well because he didn't follow up straight away. So, Duraev was able to survive. And then Yun Yong Park fails a rear naked choke that looks like it's in. But it was a bit off at the angle. So I was like, Duraev can survive this. And he did. But then just laid there still on his back. No urgency to try and scramble and end up on top position. Eventually, just whilst Yun Yong Park had the back, I'm not even joking with you here. Khabib versus Poirier-esque, the way he gave up his neck. He was on his back, tucking his chin, and he went like this. Lifted his chin way up, exposed his neck. I don't have a neck to expose, but he lifted all the way up, exposed his neck, and he just got choked out. So good job, Park Yun-Yong. Funny dude, fun guy to watch out for. We move on up the card to another fight, which is Francisco Prado versus Ottoman Azaitar. One away from the one you guys want to hear about. But this one, little bit of controversy. I think it was an early stoppage. I actually think it could have been stopped earlier than it was. With there was a certain flurry of hammer fists that Prado landed where I was like, oh, he looks like he might be out. But then he came back too because Prado started missing some hammer fists and shots and landing on the shoulders and arms. And then the ref just was like, oh, look, he's trying to get back up. He's trying to push away with his hips. I'll stop it now because I'm downs. And everyone who works for the UFC is downs, including the ref, who is extra downs. Either way, Prado finished him. I picked him too. I thought he would be an underdog. He wasn't. He was evens. He became a favorite once I picked him, unfortunately. Could have got an underdog there. But Prado landed what he needed to. Azaitar actually landed some pretty decent body shots in that fight when I'm thinking back at it. But Prado was landing good leg kicks at range, and the headshots were Prado's favor massively, especially towards the end, right? But he actually finished Ottoman Azaitar with a spinning elbow. He landed a few straight up normal elbows as Azaitar came in early on and actually cut Azaitar open with it. but the spinning elbow is what finished him. Landed right behind his ear as he was looking for the back as Prado span. And Prado got the first round TKO. Lightweight Vittori has arrived. The size of that head. Jesus. We move on. Up the card to another fight, which was Jack Della Maddalena versus Bassil Hafez. I knew it couldn't be that simple. Obviously, the guy who slept Randy Brown in round 1, who slept Ramazan Ameev, is going to struggle with Hafez. Obviously. And Hafez is good, and everyone was talking about how good he is. He trains at Team Elevation with Gaethje, and he's trained with a bunch of fighters in the US. As you could see, a lot of the fighters were saying robbery because they're all absolutely biased and don't know how to fucking score fights. I'm sick of the idea that that was a robbery. I'm making a whole... My chat told me DC said Hafez won round 2. If I watch it back and hear that, I'm making a whole video on DC tomorrow. Just to let you guys know to watch out for that one. Either way, I'm just going to not cope as much. Hafez did all right with the takedowns. And he kept dangerous enough on the feet to where JDM couldn't absolutely dominate him there until round 3, where he did absolutely dominate Hafez on the feet. He was even had wrist control and was just punching him with a right hand. I have no idea how Hafez survived round 3. I thought for sure he was about to get KO'd, but he just kept shooting takedowns. He shot 20 in 15 minutes. Bonkers pace to put on. Clearly was in absolutely insane shape. He was in shape. You could see it on him. He made weight easier, and he was absolutely shredded. JDM won round 2. Simple as that. I think Hafez wins round 1. He landed some good shots on JDM. JDM landed more, but he got the takedowns. Both guys landed decent shots. He can get round 1, even though on total strikes across the fight, 149 to 48 in favor of Jack Della Maddalena. 83 to 32 in favor of Jack Della Maddalena for significant strikes. 13 to 9 in round 1. I still gave round 1 to Hafez because of the takedowns. Round 2. JDM wins round 2. Simple as that. Simple as that. Hafez got his takedown towards the end after a few of them were stuffed early and after JDM pulled a guillotine to let him on top. I couldn't believe he was doing that. Couldn't believe he was doing that. Kept pulling guillotines when he had just stuffed the takedown as well. It's not like, oh, this takedown's going to happen anyway. I might as well try a guillotine. He had finished stuffing the takedown. His hips were safe. And then he started going for the guillotine, pulling himself on bottom. Worst fight IQ I've ever seen. I have no idea why he was doing that. But at the end of the day, Hafez did nothing on top of him. Not a single submission attempt. I know people are going to talk about the arm triangle. He was on half guard on the opposite side. It wasn't a legitimate arm triangle attempt. But it was somewhat in, but he just wouldn't have had the squeeze for it. But it was close. I get that. But round 2, JDM, he just did more damage. Landed body shots, landed head shots, 27 to 16 on significant strikes. And at one point in round 2, he almost, in my opinion, visibly hurt Bassil Hafez on the feet to the body. And Bassil shot a takedown, and then JDM stuffed it and started punching his body over and over again, kneeing him to the side of the body as well. But then would shoot a guillotine like a nonce and end up on bottom again. So he won. He did more damage in round 2. Absolutely fine decision. Obviously dominating round 3, 43 to 7. If he didn't end up on bottom, even though he reversed it and ended up on top afterwards, if he didn't get taken down in the third, I think they would have given a 10-8. I think they should have given it anyway. The only reason Hafez was in there was because of his absolute granite chin, it seems, because JDM was whooping him in round 3 badly. But JDM is exposed, basically. I'm going to have an excuse for him. I've got excuses. But that is a fight where now Sean Brady, who might have previously been absolutely terrified of JDM, is going to be thinking, I finished that arm triangle. Please pull a guillotine on me. I can't wait to fight this guy. You know what I mean? So maybe they do get to rebook that in September. That would be ideal because now it's way more interesting, right? Before people were saying, Brady's scared, JDM's going to smoke him. But now it's like there's going to be a massive amount of people saying JDM's going to get subbed. And I might be one of them. But the excuse is, JDM had 2 weight cuts back-to-back to 170. And if you see him at the weigh-ins for, I believe it was UFC 284 in Australia, Perth, if you see him at the weigh-in show interview, he's absolutely a dead man on the scale. Absolutely terrible. He's having seizures and twitches in his neck and everything, muscle spasms and all that. Terrible weight cut for him. And he did that twice, back to back. And I will say this, and this is something that you have to admit right now. He looked half the speed we've ever seen him before. Think about the guy that was tracking down Randy Brown. Right hand over the top. Same with Danny Roberts. Boom, boom, boom. Big shots, combos. He's landed massive shots. He looked so unbelievably slow in round 1 and 2. And looked almost like dizzy and lethargic on the feet. Didn't like what he was throwing. Was hesitant. Was so unbelievably slow. I think it was the double weight cut. So I am going to expect a better JDM the next time we see him. I'm still alive on the hype train a bit. But I don't know, dude. There might be a nice pick on Brady. And now Brady's going to be a favorite, I reckon, going into that matchup. So maybe Bassil Hafez is a solid fighter like people have been saying. And he is. But shouldn't have been that close, should it? Don't pull guillotines. He got taken down. No joke. He ended up on bottom. He got taken down 3 times in that fight out of 20 takedowns. But he ended up on bottom so much more because he just kept pulling guillotines. I've never seen worse decision making in my life. It was so bad. He had stuffed the takedown, got his underhook, separated his hips from Hafez. Hafez didn't even have his hands together on the hips or anything. He had one hand bracing on the ground and one hand like limply over the arse of JDM. Sorry to describe it in that way, but that's the way it was. Just limply holding on to JDM to try and stay close enough to him to stay safe and not get separated completely. All JDM had to do was just move backwards and he's out of the takedown. And he dives on bottom for a guillotine 4 times. Doesn't even get an official sub attempt. That's how bad the guillotines were. JDM! Sorry, I need to calm down. Before this fight, I thought you whooped all of the top 5. Never pull a guillotine again in your wonky-nosed life. Or I will personally travel to Australia and drop kick that thing straight on the other side of your face. Do you understand? And I know, maybe out there in some distant world, Craig Jones might be watching right now. What's up, Craig? You get in this man's face the next time he ever partakes in soy jiu-jitsu with you and you beat him. I want the whole of B-Team Jiu-Jitsu to stomp this man out if he ever pulls a guillotine in the gym ever again. And if he survives, he survives. If he doesn't survive, it's a shame. He shouldn't have pulled a guillotine. Learn or die. Never pull a guillotine again. And if he does ever pull a guillotine again, stomp him out. That wasn't a call to violence, though. I was joking. Obviously, I'm massively over-exaggerating and emotional in the moment. And I'm playing a character of the MMA guru as well. UK law is pretty fucking strict. We don't have freedom of speech. Like and subscribe. Nope. There was another fight. What was the other fight? Oh, the fucking main event. Mayra Bueno Silva versus Holm. I knew I should have picked Mayra, but it was kind of whatever. Holm stuck her head into a choke in the clinch, and it was like a modified guillotine with like a rear naked grip. It is what it is. Mayra Bueno Silva got the choke out in round 2. Really annoyed that the UFC didn't show the boobs that were popping out. That's what we were there for. They saw that the boobs were being like shown to be great and everyone was enjoying the show, and then they switched camera angles and it was like, okay, all right, UFC, we get it. No fun allowed. Next thing you know, they'll be stopping Ailin Perez from doing post-fight interviews. Either way, Holm, did she win round 1? I don't know. It was a close round. I guess she won it on control in the clinch, and she outlanded Mayra that round as well, landed some good body kicks. And I was thinking, okay, Mayra's going to slow down. She's a powerful woman. She's going to slow down, and Holm's conditioning is going to kick in, and she's going to get the win. But stuck her head in a guillotine in round 2. What can you do? And it was a modified guillotine. It wasn't like a cranked guillotine. It was like a rear naked choke. It was a ninja choke. You know what I mean? It's one of those front chokes that Arnold Allen's done twice in his career, if you know about those. So like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Decent card, I guess. It was an entertaining watch. Some of the fights were all right. Some of them were pretty poo. Probably give it like a 4 out of 10 as a card. But yeah, that's about it. And we got a nice early night after the main event ended by finish, which was better than Holm pushing her up against the cage for 5 rounds. Good stuff. Shout out to Ailin Perez. Great ass. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. JDM was not gifted a decision. I don't understand how people can complain. These casuals, they will complain that Pantoja gets a fucking win over Moreno, where they all of a sudden they want to start talking damage, okay? And Pantoja did okay and can win that fight versus Moreno. But again, if you want to get intricate and look at damage, it's a close fight. I get it, okay? It can go either way. But I'm not angry at Pantoja winning that. But he did, Hafez did no damage. He landed a couple of decent shots in round 1, 1 or 2 counter shots in round 2, and that's literally it other than control. And the same people that would be like, Pantoja, winning because of hugging, are now saying, wow, JDO, the UFC, another robbery for them. It's so unbelievably crazy how they switch the fucking way they judge fights, these absolute casuals. It's weird. If they want a guy to win, control time means absolutely nothing to them, as it should, unless it's someone taking their back, which Pantoja did, right? Or him landing elbows off of his back in grappling positions as he was doing. All of a sudden, they want to completely say control time's nothing, and it is. But then when Hafez lays on JDM after JDM pulls a guillotine and does no damage on the feet pretty much in round 2 or 3, they want to say, how is this even, I don't even know how they, I don't know. I'm very, very certain 80% of the human population are robot-spawned, absolute NPCs that are made to vote, and they can vote. It's so weird, man. How can we have democracy if people that think Hafez should have won are allowed to fucking vote? Sorry. These people can vote, and I don't want to get political here, but that is crazy. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Thank you, Ailin Perez. Highlight of the night. And Chelsea Chandler. That was funny. I don't know if you were meant to be funny, but it was really funny. Running head first into the cage. See you later. Goodbye.